Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Archie Tech Experience. We have with us today the ever amazing Amari Sayas. So, Amari, how have you been? Catch us up. Tell us a little bit about what you've been up to.
I've been good. I'm always good. What have I been up to? Gosh, I think a lot of things and kind of nothing at the same time. I have gone pretty narrow-mindedly in a interesting direction. So I am doing voice acting right now. So
Oh,
just trying to, get on some like commercials and also to read books, like audiobooks online. So
I
that
think you
is
definitely have the voice for it, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah,
When
and then I am also just diving in to my own sort of business and trying to get, myself out there a little bit more.
are you still doing the website? I know last time we talked, you had plans
I have
to
one.
you had did you got the website up and
I
running?
Yeah, I
Oh
do.
wow, you got to give me a link to that. I want to check it out.
I
I did
certainly
not know that.
will. Yeah,
Have you been doing some traveling?
I did. I actually was in Mexico 2 weeks ago, maybe something like that.
You went to Mexico?
Went to Mexico for the very first time. Yeah, it was really cool.
That must have been pretty cool. I have never left the country
No, at all.
or the East Coast even. So
Oh, yikes.
yeah, I'm looking to go. I'm looking to do some traveling this summer actually. So that'll be
Yeah, I mean, I
cool.
just got my passport maybe like 2 years ago. So only other place I've been to out of the country is Canada. But back in the 90s, you didn't need a passport. You just need to be a US citizen. So you could drive there back in the
And
day.
yeah, they shutting us out. They're shutting us out of Canada. They don't want us over there. And so how's the coaching been going?
It's going really well. Yeah, I got myself two new clients this past couple of months, and it has been really good because I have gotten some new modalities, I guess you can say, things to sort of play around with my clients with. So that's been fun, just experimenting with these kind of new tricks.
Has breath work been like a huge help for people? Have you found that it's been a huge help for people that you coach?
Yeah, so no matter what style of coaching I do or where I'm taking somebody as far as like a client journey, let's just call it, the breath is number one in my opinion. One, because as human beings, we actually have such control over our breath. And a lot of us don't realize how deeply connected it is to other parts of ourselves. So, if you can control your breath, you can essentially control the stress levels within your body. And that actually changes your like biology and your physiological nature, which essentially is what we all want to do, right? That's how we get rid of disease and all of these things. And I'm not saying that it's like a doctor's cure, but essentially it opens our bodies up to heal in whatever way we choose, whether it's by going to the doctor or taking medicine or whatever it is. Using your breath allows for the healing to take place because you're not in a state of stress response. If you're stressed, all your body and your brain wants to do is get you away from that stress. And so it doesn't care about making you healthy. It doesn't care about any of those things, but keeping you alive. And we're kind of in this weird place, I think, in time where we're sort of really safe if you think about it. Like there's not a lot of danger outside in the world aside from the things that we sort of create as human beings. So, yeah, we're in this weird place of experiencing externally a lot of safety, but feeling very unsafe on the inside.
Are you
And
just to clarify, are you talking about like, you know, in old times we had to kind of conquer nature, right?
sure, yeah, correct.
And
Right.
now, like now we kind of got a grip on like shelter, food, clothing, and things like that. Is that what you
Yeah.
mean? Okay.
Yeah, those things go hand in hand because that's evolution, right? That's how human beings went from these primitive beings to whatever we are today. I don't
Mhm.
necessarily consider us immensely evolved, but obviously you can see the difference between a caveman and us today. But that response that we have, because it's so automatic and it's been with us for hundreds of thousands of years, we can't seem to shut that part down where it continues to make us nervous and anxious and fearful all of the time. So we weirdly exist in this like angst, like this really, tight focus. So breath helps you relax all of that and essentially gives you the opportunity to use other parts of your brain that aren't so necessarily dead set on keeping you alive. They're there for creativity. They're there for expansion and these things that seem really, really far away from us because we don't get to experience them that much, right? If you're perpetually experiencing fear, something like joy feels really far away, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's essentially what using your breath can do, and it can be really simple as just paying attention to it. Like you don't have to change anything. You just notice, and automatically things like your blood pressure start to change. Like it just happens sort of on.
You said that breath work kind of opens you up to be able to receive medical attention. Could you kind of break that down for me?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it opens you up to receive medical attention, but it opens your, let's say, nervous system and parts of your body to actually progress in healing.
Okay.
Right. And so because you are in a relaxed state of being, you're more able to receive whatever healing it is that you choose because you're not in a state of like survival and generally speaking it's a very automatic response. Like your survival modes are very specific things. I think you have to eat, you have to breathe and eat food. Those are kind of it, right? Like nothing else really matters. And so if you're in that state of being, that's all that your body, so to speak, really cares about. So it's not gonna take in as much healing as it could is if you were in a calm state of being.
Understood.
Yeah.
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 Understand. So that's pretty dope. That's pretty dope. Seem like you've been doing great with the coaching. You got the website going on. You've been doing traveling. You're doing great. So in light of it being Valentine's Day time,
Sure.
what relationship advice could you give
Oh
to some of the
my.
viewers? Don't do it. It's probably like
No.
if you single, stay single.
Oh my, there's so many things that can be said.
Okay, what is like one of the biggest pressing issues that you get from your clients?
Projecting things onto someone else. This is, I think we all do this in every relationship,
Even
but
platonic relationships
very
and
much so. Absolutely.
family, everything, right?
Friendships, all of those things, we
Yeah.
get into a place where we have expectations that are often not spoken and not agreed upon, right? Even
Mm-hmm.
if we say the things that we want, we're often assuming that the other person doesn't have autonomy to make that choice for themselves, right? So even if we come with an expectation and say, hey, I want you to do this, they still, as a human being, get to choose whether they agree with that or not, right? And it's not my place to force anything onto them. And it's very difficult in relationships to, let's say, act and be a certain way and sort of have a moral standing of your own. And if your partner doesn't fall in line with those things, it's very easy to look at them as the bad guy and say that they're doing all of these things wrong. But really, at the end of the day, one, you're doing it to yourself, and there's actually nothing inherently wrong with what they're doing. You've created that
Mm-hmm.
rule that this is the way that it's supposed to be, and you're not giving them that single personhood, that autonomy to choose whether that's what they agree to or not. Yeah, and I think it's kind of taking accountability for ourselves in our relationships. The things that go wrong, we always have a hand in. That it's never a one-sided story. It's never a one-way street. And if there is something happening, we have to seek inside for those answers, right? Like we can always see what somebody else is doing wrong, but it's so incredibly difficult to
Yeah.
look outside of ourselves, right? And say, oh, actually,
Mhm.
I also played a part and took a hand. And that is very difficult. And that's something that I would suggest for everyone to do in any scenario is to look inside, have some self-reflection and see where you are a player in this game, because at the end of the day, you are a player in the game. Whether you see it or not, that's a different perspective, but that doesn't mean that you're not involved, right? You're not, every move that you make, every word that you speak out loud, every feeling that you have towards somebody, that creates something. Everything creates matter. Every thought that you have,
Yeah.
every conversation, it's something is going to come into fruition.
Some sort of cause and effect.
Exactly. And so if we can see that part of ourselves and the responsibility that we hold, at least in that capacity, that can actually change our perspective on what our relationships look like.
Because ultimately, too, you can only control what you do, right?
Mhm.
And how you take things. So yeah, that's definitely something to think about. A lot of accountability you were suggesting in relationship for both sides, right?
Do I love accountability. It's something I think that's missing a lot for a lot of people. We're so ready to blame everybody else for everything, and that's good and fine, but for me, where I come from, we live in a dualistic world. And if there's something, again, happening, there's equal parts to it here, right? There's a you and a me, and we're both in a relationship. And so I've got to see your part and my part as well, because that's what creates the whole, right? That's what the full relationship looks like. If I'm only looking at one side, not seeing the entire picture.
Which actually brings me to my next question. Codependency. I hear it all the time. I would like to hear from you. What is it and why is it so bad?
Codependency, at least from my understanding of it, it's leaning into someone too much, right? It's not taking that accountability that I love to talk about so much. And so there's always this attachment on somebody else's actions, and that then creates actions and reactions within that codependent person, and both people can be codependent towards one another, and that's, it's kind of like a tug of war in that sense, where one person at one point in time is going to hold a majority of the weight, is going to hold a majority of the decision making because maybe they're able to in those moments, and it takes the power away from the other individual to have autonomy to make choices for themselves as well. And so because that's what it looks like, even though it's not true, right? We always have choices.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've given their power away to somebody else, now they can step back and say, oh well, I'm not responsible for that. And so it's an easy way out. And that's like a really bold way to say this. Like, these are all complex topics, and there's so many layers to these things, right? So one thing I say is just a level, it's a perspective, it's just a singular lens of this whole kind of really big thing. But codependency essentially is giving power away to one another and absolving oneself of responsibility, because it's easy that way and it's safe that way.
See, yeah, that's unfortunate. It's a cold world, and I do look to people like you to warm it up a little bit. You have a light, you shine it, and I appreciate it. I definitely appreciate it. So What is next for you?
Hmm. I feel like I have so many nexts. And I am working on being more of a for forward forward planner because I often I notice
Spur of the
that
moment kind
it's
of
very
thing.
much in the spur of the moment, which is fine. It's led me to many a places. And also I think I realized that there's something to structure that I quite don't quite understand yet, but there's something to it that allows for this play to happen that I'm so sort of obsessed with. This idea of being free and kind of being able to do what I want when I want is all fine and dandy. And also what I'm gathering and moving towards is it's okay also to have framework and structure because essentially if I have bones, I can put the meat on myself, right? And sort of build in that way and know how far out of the lines that I can go if I have lines in front of me, right? If I just keep drawing outside here, here, and here, I find myself trailing off of the direction that I want to be in. So, yeah, I think the next things for me are to like plan out my next, which really sounds kind of scary. 5 years. Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm the same way. And to speak to that, you definitely just took this interview kind of spur of the moment, like, okay, let's do it without any prep. Believe it or not, I do actually have a secretary. She just does not do her job. So shout out to Panda for just leaving. Yeah, she doesn't do her job at all. She yeah.
Do you
So
pay this person?
I do not. It's completely voluntary. She actually tries to quit a lot, and I'm like, nope, that's not gonna happen. So
So forced labor is what we're talking about.
you say forced labor, I say voluntary. You say tomato, I say tomato, right?
So good. Well, okay, since we're along these lines and it feels like what I'm saying aligns with you, like what's that look like for you?
As far as forced labor or Valentine's Day,
Or next, your
or what am I
next.
doing? What am I doing next?
Mhm.
My next. I'm actually in the process of writing a book. So
Amazing.
yeah, that's what's next for me. It's called the Codename Conspiracy, and it's been years in the making. So to kind of buckle down and finish that by, I want to give myself. I don't like giving myself timelines because I never, you know what I mean. I never meet deadlines. I'm not good with deadlines. So that's one thing. And then also I want to start foreign exchange trading again, which I was doing a little bit last year and kind of fell off with it. So I want to get back into that. I also have a lot of necks. Too many probably that I can't just settle on
Yeah.
just just one thing. If I did ever settle on just one thing instead of like just being scatterbrained and trying to juggle all these things, I think it would be great. But also, building this platform is like probably top priority. So that's where a lot of my
Yeah.
attention has been going.
It's interesting that you said you don't like deadlines because you don't ever meet them. And it
Never.
actually, that's exactly, I think, what I am trying to understand and convey to myself mostly, but maybe this will be helpful to you, is that the deadline itself isn't necessarily like the hard set thing. It's the thing that you work towards. Because if you don't have a deadline, you can literally take for the rest of your life, right? Like, who's to
Yeah,
say that you are actually going to do it because you have nothing to solidify it for in the future?
that is true. That is very true. That is very true. I like that. And also not being so hard on myself when I don't make a
Absolutely.
deadline, you know,
Absolutely.
because
Right.
yeah,
Because, well,
that
because
can,
that's the thing. It's like you made the rule. Like, who is holding you
yeah, yeah,
hostage to that deadline? It's yourself, right? You just move it along. You assess in that moment and say, okay, like this wasn't the right one. what do I need to do now, looking where you are, what you've got done? What's a more realistic deadline? Like you don't have to like kill yourself on the hill, right? It's not like that.
Yeah, I have been like that in the past, so that's something I should probably try to break out of. Like, it's okay to set deadlines and not meet them. That doesn't mean, but I'm afraid that like I'll be like too loose with the deadlines if I know that if I go about it like that, like, well, if I don't meet it, it's okay, then I won't meet it, you know. But I never meet them anyway, so something new to try, I guess.
Something new to try.
A new
Exactly.
way to go about it. But because I'll like not meet a deadline, and then to me that means like to hell with it. You know what I mean? Because I just get so frustrated with myself that I'm like, then, and I'll put it to the side for a very long time and just never come back around to it. It's what I did with foreign exchange trading. I gave myself a certain goal to have a certain amount, and when I didn't meet that, I kind of just put it to the side. But it's been almost probably about 7 months now since the last time I traded because I didn't meet the goal that I have for myself. So
It's a very all or nothing sort of way of being.
mm, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I mean that is fine, right? If that's what you want. But I having been on the other side of many sort of people who are starting new things and also not really necessarily starting new things, but just trying to put new shit out there, people probably put out like a 35% finished product.
Yeah.
Like it's not even, it's actually really quite insane. Just being behind the scenes of so many people's businesses, you start to realize that no one knows what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
They're just
No,
doing.
that's so true. That's so
They're
true.
they're just they're putting it out there and no one on the other side knows that it's not done. Right? Only you do.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
Only you know you didn't meet that deadline. Only you know what your finished idea and product was
Look
going to look like.
like
Nobody knows.
very good point. Very good point. Yeah, that is a very good point.
Like you could write a half about that. Who would know?
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Very true. Well, I'm gonna end this interview here. It's always been lovely. I want to get you back on to co-host with me because you seem to always turn it around on me. I think you need to co-host. You just not.
I have the propensity to, yeah, draw things out of others
It
rather
always feels like a
than,
therapy session every time I interview.
by the way, folks, I'm not a therapist. I do
Kind of
not
like she's kind of like a
provide
she's kind of
medical
like a therapist.
advice or information. I suggest everyone speaks to their doctor and other doctors and multiple sources to get their information because being in the world of information that we live in, you can get flooded in a lot of talk, right? And things that are happening in other places that might not actually be valid sources. So I question my own thoughts, my own words, the things that I believe and understand all of the time. So
That was a
heed my
very
words.
yeah very therapeutic thing to say. I feel like that was great. So will you come back and co-host with me? I'll write an episode up. Can I lock
Yeah.
you in for that?
Okay,
That is
sure.
awesome. She's like, okay, sure. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm gonna do the outro, and it's always lovely to have you. Come back soon.
Likewise. Thanks.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was the wonderful Amari Sayez. You guys are all familiar with her. She's been on the show before. If you haven't seen those episodes, make sure you double back and check those out. Very good episodes. She's always very enlightening, very brilliant, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and share with your friends. As always, I want you guys to love each other, take care of each other, be kind to each other. It's already a cold world. We do not need any more negativity being spread. So We all have good days and bad days. If you're having a bad day, try to, work it out with maybe a support system, some close friends, but don't go out and spread it into the world because we don't need any more of that. Let love light the way. I love you guys as always. Thank you for tuning in.
What is love? I mean, I don't know, but it's not possessive. You can't own it. It's not a possession. It's not destructive. It shouldn't be used as a weapon. It's not toxic. It's no aggression. It may be fluid, but you don't sweat it. You can't hold it unless you let it go, and that's the only way you know. It just doesn't make sense. What is love? I don't know.